And let me tell you something, good luck to somebody who wants a narcissist to be accountable, because they don't feel bad about the action that they did towards you. They feel bad at the fact that they were caught. For many people, they look at accountability and they expect accountability from the other person. For many people, we tend to think that, well, as long as that person has apologized, that's fine. But what is an apology without changed behavior? They would rather just move on to the next thing, deflect, and not want to process. Somebody who cannot apologize displays a large sense of a lack of emotional maturity. You're not going to sit here and argue with somebody you don't care for anymore. And a lot of the time, people choose to be in denial rather than be accountable. And somebody who is not accountable cannot be called somebody who is emotionally mature. You cannot dictate how someone has been hurt by you. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This is I Have Thoughts. As you know, this is part of the Real Talk stable of videos, and I'm really excited to film this one. But before we get started, as always, thank you so much for choosing me over and over and over again. And we are here today to talk about accountability and why your lack of accountability could ruin so many of your relationships, friendships, and even your community situations. So I'm talking about family, I'm talking about your work situations and things like that. This came to me when I was scrolling on TikTok, of course. Typically, a lot of the times it happens when I'm scrolling and I come across a video that I feel like I want to speak a little bit more about this. So, as always, thank you for choosing me over and over again. Subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the videos, and like the videos. And as always, watch the ads, because it goes a long way to helping support my channel. And to those who do that, thank you very much. Your presence is not recognized. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so let's get into this video. So as I find myself scrolling on TikTok and looking for content that I need to produce for my various social media platforms, I came across a certain video about accountability. And this video really stood out to me because I feel like we need to talk about accountability. It is a very trendy word that I don't think a lot of people seem to understand what it means. So as always, I picked up a couple of TikTok videos that we're going to talk around, but we're going to talk about what accountability is, what it looks like, why you should practice a life of accountability, especially when you are engaging with other people, engaging in certain relationships, engaging in certain friendships and things like that. You need to be accountable because nobody's perfect. Nobody has the answers. And we always need to realize that we are going to hurt the people that we love and care about at some stage in our lives. We might hurt them by what we do. We might hurt them by what we say. And it's really important to be able to know how to rectify or move forward from that action of hurt, how to know what to do or know how to step forward or show up for that person when you have inflicted that hurt or that pain or that trauma or whatever it may be. And that requires accountability. So before we get started, I'm going to start with the first video where it talks about accountability. This is the first video that I came across, and this is what I want us to get started with first, okay?
Accountability will heal a lot of relationships. In most cases, it doesn't matter why you did what you did. What matters the most is that you're willing to acknowledge the pain that was caused by your actions, accept responsibility for your actions, and then take accountability by making the necessary changes so that it won't happen again. That's it, and that's all.
I agree with that 110%. But before we get into why I agree with that, we need to look at what accountability is. What does accountability look like? So we know that a lot of the times we can maybe indirectly or even directly inflict hurt on the people that we love. Accountability means being aware that apologizing should be your first action to realizing that what you have done, what you have inflicted on someone has been in a way in which it has hurt them or has inflicted hurt or pain, trauma, whatever it may be, and to be aware of the impact that it has done to that person. So that's normally the first step for me that leads towards accountability. Accountability is not just apologizing. Accountability is a layered process. For many people, we tend to think that, well, as long as that person has apologized, that's fine. But what is an apology without changed behavior? What is an apology without rectifying the situation and saying that I am aware that this is what I did. I realize the impact of what I have done. I have hurt you. I have created distance between you and I as a friendship or as a relationship. I have created some sort of instability between the two of us, and I am willing to work on it and put in the work. So apologizing is not necessarily taking accountability. Apologizing is great, and I think it is very important when you are in a position where you should be apologizing to someone based on what you may have done or what you have did or said or anything like that. But it is also important to be aware of the steps that need to be taken when it comes to then rectifying what you have done. Taking responsibility, right? So accountability is saying that I am taking responsibility for what I have done. And I think for many people, they look at accountability and they expect accountability from the other person. We expect the other person to be accountable. And we forget that a lot of the time, accountability starts within yourself as well. So in many cases, you find that with relationships, I'll give an example, with relationships between men and women, largely, a large percentage of the time, women take a lot longer to move from one relationship to the other because they spend a lot of time in their healing process. They look inward. They look towards what it is that I may have done. How did this happen to me? What is this? How do I respond to this? They deal with the hurt. They deal with the pain. They deal with the anger, even in some instances, before they move on to something else. Whereas with men, largely, a large percentage of the time, they just skip into something else because they do not want to sit with the emotions that come with having to address exactly what went wrong and be accountable for the role that they played in the demise or destruction of that partnership or that connection between them and their partner or them and their friend or them and they this. They would rather just move on to the next thing, deflect, and not want to process. They would rather put their head in the sand and say that I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just going to move on to the next thing. I'm going to do this. When in the long run, it's not helpful because you are not learning what it is that you play or the roles that you play in your connections with others, in your relationships, your friendships, your community situations, your family situations that causes your relationships to come to a demise, that causes your relationships to be unstable, that causes your relationships to come into a space of disrepute, right? So it's really important to be able to be aware of what accountability is and what it looks like. Accountability is saying sorry. I feel like the first thing when it comes to accountability is to apologize. Somebody who cannot apologize displays a large sense of a lack of emotional maturity, a lack of self-awareness, because you cannot find the space where you realize that what you may have said or done was wrong and it was hurtful, and the person that you did that to didn't appreciate that act or that action. So because of that, you would rather bury your head in the sand and not necessarily apologize. I know apologizing is very difficult, but someone who can apologize and apologize with changed action is very much aware of the impact that what they have done has done to the other person. But then you move on to the space of impact. Are you aware of how that thing that action, that thing that you said, or that thing that you did impacted the person that you care about, or the person that you claim to care about? Do you care that it has impacted them in that way, or do you not? Would you rather just walk away from the situation, distance yourself from the situation? Would you rather turn your head, bury your head in the sand, and hopefully as time goes on, you hope that they will forget and that you guys will move on and move forward together without actually acknowledging the impact that it has on that person? Accountability. This is the second step of accountability. Are you aware of the impact that that thing or that action has done to the person that you claim to care about? And if you are aware, what are you going to do about it? Leading to the next step of the accountability. If you want to keep someone in your life, largely, a lot of the time when people argue or they show or share what you did that has made them displeased, or that has hurt them, or that has made them feel some type of way, they share that with you because they want you to know they still want you in their life. You're not going to sit here and argue with somebody you don't care for anymore. It's very important to note, if somebody doesn't want to argue, they turn away, they ignore, they silence, they don't care to repair. They do not care to look at the relationship and save it, or the friendship. They do not care for it. They get to a point where they're just like, this is too much for me. I'm not going to do this. I don't care to entertain this anymore. I don't want to look into this. So it is what it is. I'm just going to ignore it. They don't care. But if somebody constantly wants to bring you to the forefront and say, listen, I need you to be aware of what you did. I need you to be aware of what you said. People say horrible things to each other in friendships, especially with people that you are close with. In friendships and relationships, people call each other out of their names. People say horrible things to each other. People insult each other. People use vitriol. I have been called horrible names by people that I thought at the time cared about me. Very bad names, okay? Like the worst ways in which people could insult me, they have. And I struggled to get an apology from some of them. Some of them did apologize, which is great. Some of them didn't. And I realized that within myself, it always became that sore wound, and it became an open wound that could not heal. It was always just sitting there festering, because all it took was an apology and being told. Not just apologizing with action. For me, it also means that I want to hear the apology come from your mouth. I want you to actually say, I'm sorry I treated you that way. I'm sorry I did that thing. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. All of this, ABC. And then show me through changed behavior. Take the responsibility upon yourself to show me with changed behavior that you meant what you said. Right? And a lot of the time, people choose to be in denial rather than be accountable. People do not want to sit with themselves and actually realize that, man, I messed up there. Because the moment that they do sit down and realize this and admit it to themselves, it shows them that they are coming from a place of lack when it comes to that relationship. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I love saying that. It shows them that they are coming from a place of lack because they seem to think that they are the perfect partner or the perfect friend or the perfect whatever. That when somebody shows them what they have done or what they may have said that hurt them, that is wrong, that is this, they struggle to make sense of how that action can be linked with themselves. So because of that, they would rather silence, walk off, not address it, not apologize, not acknowledge the role that they played in that action. And that becomes where the issue rolls in, at the fact that you are not wanting to sit with yourself and say that I'm aware that this is what I did. I am sorry that I made you feel this way. I can see how it's impacted you. And because of that, I am going to change. I am going to do whatever it is in my power to do and be different for the sake of this friendship, for the sake of this relationship, for the sake of this connection that I have with you. And it really, truly just boils down to that. It boils down to the fact that somebody acknowledges and they possess enough self-awareness to realize that they will hurt you at some point. We do hurt each other at some point. It's human. Right? You may do something not thinking that you're hurting that person, and when in actual fact, you actually are. It's a human emotion. It's a human reality when it comes to us as human beings. However, they don't want to sit with that. There's people that don't want to sit with that. And somebody who is not accountable cannot be called somebody who is emotionally mature and emotionally aware. And let me tell you something. Good luck to somebody who wants a narcissist to be accountable, because narcissists don't really feel bad about the action that they did towards you. They don't feel bad about the action that they did towards you. They feel bad at the fact that they were caught doing it. And now they're called out on it. Because a lot of people have to sit with the uncomfortable feeling that you have just been called out. What you did was unacceptable. What you did hurt my feelings. What you did made me feel small. What you did made me feel like you're not aware of the role that I play in this connection that I have with you. And because of that, you act some type of way. Narcissists do not want to sit with those emotions. They absolutely do not. So asking or hoping that a narcissist will be accountable is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. That's not going to happen. True. Listen to this.
People that aren't ready to take accountability and aren't ready to be honest with themselves and reflect will most of the time choose to hear you in a very defensive and misunderstanding way. Stop explaining yourself. They can't hear it.
And I like this fact that he says they can't hear it. They won't hear it. Also, in certain instances, they won't hear it. Somebody who is hell-bent on misunderstanding you will react in a way in which they are defensive to what you are saying. They will react by shutting you out. They will react by going cold turkey on you. They will react by not wanting to engage you anymore. They will react by wanting to move on, leave the relationship, not want to be part of the relationship or the friendship anymore. They will react in a very severe and defensive way because they refuse to listen to what you are saying. Acknowledge it, take it in, sit with it, and then take the necessary steps to be responsible in their behavior in wanting to change that or do better. They don't want to do that. So have you ever noticed when you get to a point where you are trying to express to somebody who lacks accountability how you feel, often they will be defensive. I did not do that. They'll gaslight you as well. Because a lot of the time, sitting with that means going inward, means having to realize that, man, I'm not perfect. I thought I was the perfect partner for her. I thought I was the perfect partner for him. I thought I was the perfect son, daughter. I thought I was the perfect parent. And now my child is coming to me and telling me that what I did to them or how I treated them or how I did this when they were younger has messed them up. No, that's crazy. I'm not going to listen to that. They refuse to be accountable. And the reality is, you cannot dictate how someone has been hurt by you. Okay? You cannot do that. You cannot say that, oh, but it wasn't that bad. You're gaslighting. You're gaslighting. It wasn't that bad. I did that because you said this to me. Okay. So you calling me a WHORE is because I what? I instigated it? Really? How did I get from being called by my name to now being called this? How was that my fault? So they're going to be deflective, they're going to be defensive, and they're going to run it back on you to make it seem like you are the one at fault for the way the situation is between the two of us. For real? So how am I at fault for choosing to stand up for myself? How am I at fault for choosing to hold you accountable for what you have done? It's very difficult. And for somebody who cannot say sorry or who cannot acknowledge their faults, how do you expect them to be responsible for changed behavior or changed action going forward? It's a very tall ask to ask from someone, right? Am I right? Am I right or am I wrong? I don't know.
You know, sometimes accountability to people who lack awareness can feel like an insult or an attack. And it is not your responsibility to correct the ignorance or make it plain for them to understand. Sometimes you just have to plant the seed and remove yourself from the equation. And that's not an easy thing to do. That's how you know you've reached another level of maturity. And that's what growth is all about.
Ain't that the truth? The thing is, it's not for you to show them or correct them. It's not. You must realize that to a certain point, you can only do so much. You can highlight something to someone. You can show them that what you did hurt my feelings, that what you said hurt my feelings, that what you blah, 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 did this, this, and this. But you cannot hold their hand to helping them realize what accountability looks like. Do you understand? So because of that, typically, a lot of the time, people who refuse to accept accountability will be defensive because they lack that self-awareness. But it is not your responsibility as the person who has been hurt to help show them that they were wrong. I'll give you an example with myself. I tend to get very heated when I am hurt about something or when I'm angry about something. I tend to go off, right? I don't insult people. I don't call them out their names. You fucking bitch, you whore, or you cunt, or you whatever. I don't call people out their names, no. I do get very heated and I shout and I do this and I do this and I will say some hurtful things. The reality is I come back and I check myself and I say, look, after having calmed down, said what I said to you last night, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I will say exactly those words out of my mouth. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. There was no need for me to say that to you. That was unfair, that was below the belt, that was uncalled for. I am sorry. And I will do the work to rectify my behavior going forward. I used to be extremely heated, okay? I'm not as heated anymore. Now I try to talk. I try to remember where I am and how I need to react and how I need to behave here, right? So I try to talk things through as opposed to shouting and all of this. The only time my voice will get elevated or when I feel frustrated at the fact that I'm not being heard, right? But I've realized and also learned that I need to be able to talk calmly and express myself calmly. But the reality is sometimes you can talk and express yourself calmly to someone who's hell-bent on misunderstanding you. They will refuse to hear what you are saying or where you are coming from or where, anything, because they don't want to sit with it. They don't want to sit with the fact that they have hurt you by what they've said or done, right? And so because of that, that leads a lot of people to just say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to hold your hand to try and show you that the right thing to do here is apologize. I'm not going to hold your hand to try and show you that the right thing to do here, if you want us to still stay friends, if you want us to still stay sisters and have a great relationship together as sisters, I'm not going to hold your hand to tell you what to do. You know exactly what to do. Unale pasa. You're a grown-up. You're an adult. You know exactly what you need to do. So accountability is knowing that you have done something, apologizing, making amends, and rectifying the situation. If this is something you want to fix, save, solve. If you want solutions. And if you realize that you cannot be in a place where you can do that, be responsible for your actions, then the problem may be deeper than the relationship. the connection that you have with that person, then that may be something you need to deal with by yourself. That may come from your traumas, that may come from your childhood, that may come from, your perception of relationships, all of that. It leads to a lot of things. But if you struggle to do what, not many people, but what people can do, which is hold themselves accountable, if you struggle to do that, you're going to struggle to maintain any kind of relationship, familial, friendship, or community situations. This is why the relationships will fail.
An apology is not necessarily accountability. And many times we accept someone's apology because we want reconciliation in the relationship so badly, or we want the relationship to match an image in our mind, and we can accept apologies without demanding accountability. But accepting an apology too quickly doesn't always mean that the other person is accountable. And not accepting an apology quickly doesn't mean that you're immature or holding on to an offense. An apology must be coupled with accountability, and accountability is the action of the words, I apologize. I want to see your apology carried out by the way that you walk and the way that you live. So I hear your apology, but I pay attention to your walk after the apology. Because I'm sorry can't heal my heart. I'm sorry can't heal the wound. I'm sorry can't heal the offense. But your changed behavior can begin the process. So if you don't have changed behavior, you can keep the apology.
That is so true. That is so true. It's like what I said earlier on, that it kept on, it was like an open wound with a lot of things that people have said to me or done to me without the action of the apology and the change behavior that follows that apology to prove to me that you are showing me that you are changing your behavior. That became an open wound. It was always there. It was always at the back of my mind. And it became an angry point and a sore point to myself, because I would get angry with myself for having allowed it to continue this long, to allow someone to hurt me and not apologize for this long, or to allow someone to just continue and act like nothing has happened, or continue doing the same behavior for this long, and me not calling it out until I eventually did, right? So when you eventually call certain things out and you realize that there's no change behavior, then you walk away from that situation. It'd be like that sometimes, with friendships, with family relationships, people that I used to be close to and I'm not close to anymore, because I realized that I've tried to alert you to this. I've tried to show you this, to try and show you that this is how you've made me feel. And you haven't done any changed behavior. I'm not seeing any changed behavior. More than anything, you just keep repeating the same offense over and over again. So can you actually say, this is what I'll leave you with today. Can you actually say you are accountable? You are someone who expresses accountability for when you are wrong, because you cannot dictate how the person you have wronged should feel. That's not your place. But can you express your accountability by changed action, right? By changed action, by realizing the impact and by doing better, apologizing and doing better. Can you say you are that kind of person? And if you're not, then maybe there's a couple of things you need to work on. I'm still working on it too. I know things that I have changed, and I know things that I still have yet to work on and I still struggle with. But I know that I am not the same person I was 3-5 years ago, where I could barely apologize. I could barely get the words "I'm sorry" out of my mouth. And my sister was the one who alerted me to that. She's just like, you just don't say sorry. You just don't say sorry, and that's the problem. And I'm like, Now I'm very quick to apologize, but also at the same time, very quick to realize the impact that what I have done has, or said, has done to that person, right? And to change my behavior going forward. So can you actually say that you are accountable? we're going to close it out with this one, and we're going to wrap it up here. So thank you so much, very, very much for watching the video and supporting the channel. I do appreciate you. It goes a long way. Thank you for choosing me over and over again. If you like the video, please do subscribe. Join the membership space if you care. There are videos up there. There's one that just went up last week. Well, by the time I film this and I post this video. And yeah, you can check them out on there. But we're going to end it with this one.
I've learned that people really aren't looking for perfect people. Most people are just looking to be in a relationship with people who can at least admit when they're wrong. Like at some point, you have to acknowledge you're not always right and you make mistakes. Relationships get difficult when people just can't admit or acknowledge that they did something wrong. That leads them to just simply say, hey, I'm sorry. Hey, that was me. But the relationships that end up working is when both people, when it's appropriate, I messed up, I apologize, can you please forgive me? If we want to do better with creating meaningful relationships, we all have to be okay with admitting when we're wrong and then apologizing. In that, I found something else about our relationship with people that also correlates to our relationship with God. The thing that we do when we mess up is we say, Father, forgive me. Asking for forgiveness just simply means I'm acknowledging that I'm wrong. Or I just did something that I know does not please you. I just did something I know that it may hurt you, and I apologize. And God welcomes us. The Bible says he forgets our sin, casts it far from the east to the west, tosses it into the sea, remembers it no more. Doesn't even make an account or a list of the things that we've done. Basically says, let's go again. Thank you for acknowledging where you went wrong. I was never saying stay away from me, but let's move forward.
Beautiful. So true. I'll see you guys in the next one.